Hey, what up, guys? It's nDn here. It's 5.2. I'm back to actually playing or doing arenas again. I will be going on vacation again, or just like a mini spring break for like 2 weeks or something, post spring break. But I will be playing a lot this season again, and I have started playing my Ellie Shaman a lot actually. And a lot of you have requested for me to do an Ellie Shaman guide with like just rotation, burst, what macros I use, add-ons, talents, and stuff like that. So here it goes. Alright, so here's the basic rotation. Now, it's pretty simple. You're gonna just put up Flame Shock, Lava Burst, Elemental Blast, spam Lightning Bolt. If there's multiple targets, you're gonna Chain Lightning on top of that. And I usually save my Earth Shock for when I'm actually gonna go for that burst, but so usually I just keep spreading my Flame Shocks every time my shock's off of cooldown. So I'm just gonna, if there's multiple targets, I'm just gonna Flame Shock, let's go to a different target, because that way you keep getting like Lava Burst, so even if you're in an arena, you keep getting those extra Lava Burst procs, which is really nice. Just constantly get those. And also, it's nice to put down that uh, Steering Totem, because I mean, it's not the biggest damage, but I mean, it does add to it, and it's also annoying for the other team to have a totem just keep shooting fire at them. So not the biggest deal, but if you forget to use it, no biggie. But mainly it's just Flame Shock, Lava Burst, LE Blast on cooldown, Lightning Bolts. Now, now, a lot of people complain that LE Shamans just get trained down to the ground and stuff, and yeah, they do. It's someone sees an LE Shaman, they're gonna, especially a melee team, they're gonna tunnel it to the ground. Now, so this is where a lot of people have a hard. Now, as an LE Shaman, when you're getting trained hard to the ground, most of them kind of crumble under pressure and just kind of like die out. What you want to do is like you want to still be getting out that extra pressure while you're kiting or whatever you're doing. Now, a lot of people get locked down, but what I mean by that is they constantly get interrupted over and over. And what I see a lot of shamans or new shamans making mistakes with is that they'll put up a flame shock or whatever, and then they'll go for their strongest ability, which is going to be their elemental blast right off the bat. Now, what this does is, if they interrupt that, they interrupt everything. So, you want to make sure that the other team has no interrupts when you're casting a elemental blast. There's no chance that they can interrupt that, or else don't cast it. And if it's a beginning of the match and you know it's not gonna matter, if it's a caster versus caster, you're just kind of stalling and stuff, you get interrupted, no big deal. Just run back to your pillar and come back out. But if you're actually the melee's already on you and stuff, don't go for that LE blast right away. Go for that lightning bolt. And just kite around with lightning bolt. See if they interrupt you. Try to get their juke. If they don't, oh well. If they do, if they don't, doesn't matter. Go to lava burst. Cast lava bursts. If they interrupt your lava burst, go back to lightning bolt. If they interrupt your lightning bolts, then, or if they don't have any interrupts left, then you go for that elemental blast. By the time they counter one of these, they won't have a counter left for the LE blast. So then that's when you go for the LE blast. So you don't even technically have to juke. Now it's obviously a good thing to juke, just so you can be a boss. Anyways, so you want to have that stop casting macro, which is going to be really important. For me, it's just space, like shift space, because I'm always jumping anyways. So I just press shift and then space. So that's just my stop casting macro. Or that's my keybind for stop casting. A lot of you probably might not prefer that, because a lot of people like to jump and then because when you press shift and jump, you actually don't jump. So some people might not prefer that. But regardless, as an early shaman, that's a really good way to get out pressure when you're under pressure. So you don't even have to juke. So there should be no complaints of people just like, oh, I can't get damage out. It's like, I mean, unless you're stunned or silenced or something, that's the only time where you can't get damage out. If you shouldn't be getting locked down completely at any point as an Ellie Shaman. Now, for the burst, actually, really, burst is also really simple. Or let's go with the semi burst first. Which, what I mean by semi burst is you don't use ascendance, you just go for that one big global, which is gonna be three. It's gonna be 3 global cooldowns, but it's gonna happen in the span of like 2 seconds, because you're gonna have your flame shock already on them, and you're gonna get an instant lava burst proc. Now you make sure you have your 7 stacks of lightning shield so you can fulmination, and make sure your flame shocks are not it's off, or your shocks are off of cooldown. So now I get a lava burst proc. I'm gonna go for that LE blast, lava burst into a flame shock. Now in an arena match, this is a burst where that opportunity is gonna happen a lot. You can do that constantly, and that semi burst can actually I've actually brought people down from 100 to maybe 50 to 30% constantly with that, and you can do that literally every like 10 seconds or so. So, and that's why people are afraid to let an LE Shaman free cast in arenas, because they can just blow you up. Which is a plus point of being an LE Shaman. So that's your mini burst right there. Now on that, you can, if you have the time, because a lot of times, sometimes let's say a DPS is overextending, you're just going for that, you're just trying to kill him as fast as you can, or you just thunderstorm the warrior off or something, or just anything, and you're going for that kill before the healer gets into the line of sight or something. That's when you can't use Unleash Elements. But if you're actually setting that up and you have time, now, like as I said before, you have make sure you have 7 stacks of lightning shield. So now you have your lava burst proc. Now before you cast your elemental blast, make sure you unleash fury, because then your lava burst is gonna hit much harder. That was 91k. Without it, 80k. So it's gonna be, that extra low damage can affect it a lot. So just gonna have, my bad. Alright, it's getting really late, so alright, basically before you go to burst, you're gonna unleash elements, and then go for that same mini burst, which is elemental blast, flame shot, lava burst into an earth shot. And that can hit extremely hard. It'll be, you can probably do up to 200k damage in that one little global, because LE blast can crit and proc twice, lava burst can proc twice and crit, and fulmination can crit. So if you have good RNG, you can bring someone down by just like, you're not even trying to like do big retarded damage, you're just kind of damaging, and you can just almost drop someone. Now to go for your main burst, which is gonna be Ascendance. For me, I use for my burst macro, which I guess you could say is a one-shot macro. Not really, but I mean that's one. Everything's in that one macro. That's all you have to pop, and then you can burst, which is / cast Ascendance, use Trinket, on-use Trinket, and then I put Stormblast Totem down. I used to put Fire Ellie in there down, but I almost always have my Fire Ellie down, like in the beginning of the match, just to get that extra pressure going. Like as soon as like I know like I'm gonna stay in combat with them, I put my Fire Ellie down. So instead of my Fire Ellie, I replace that with Stormblast Totem, and then because a lot of times I do forget to use Stormblast Totem because I'm not used to that totem. It's pretty new. So I mean, obviously it's been there since the start of MLP, but it's still pretty much new for me, like because I've been playing Shaman for a while. So I do sometimes forget that totem. So this is a nice way to make sure you put that out there. And then on top of that, I put LE Mastery in there. Now, even if you don't use the talent LE Mastery, which I'll discuss in some cases where you can't use LE Mastery, and if you do, like, good luck. But if you have it or not, just put it in there, because if you don't have it, it won't, nothing bad will happen. The macro will still work just fine. If you have it in there, you'll use it when you pop the burst macro, because right now I don't have LE Mastery and I can still pop it. But LE Mastery is like, it's a free heroism for when you're bursting, so it's amazing. Now for burst with Ascendance, the only difference is you have your 9 stacks or 7 stacks of your lightning bolt, or I'm sorry, fulmination. The difference between the mini burst and this big burst is that it's gonna be the same. You can unleash elements if you want. You can use elemental blast for that extra proc, whatever it is. It's critical strike rating, which is completely pointless. You can watch for that and wait for mastery to proc or haste to proc. That's up to you if you want to really wait. But normally you're just gonna have Ellie Blast, and you're gonna pop Ascendance, and you're gonna pop as many lava bursts into it. Just constantly just keep going and going and going and going. Do not go for that Earth Shock. When you go for that Earth Shock, use it as a kill shot or an execute. Basically, what I mean by that is, let's say you put a healer into an hex. So it's 7-8 seconds. Now, keep spamming lava burst into that target until they're almost about to go LOS of you, or the healer's coming out of a CC and you guys don't have any more CCs on them. Until then, keep spamming that lava burst. So, let's say you keep spamming the lava burst until you get to until they're about like 25%, and you think your fulmination can kill them, go for that fulmination. But otherwise, just keep spamming lava burst until the healer's about to come out of the CC or they're about to go LOS of you. That's when you use the Earth Shock and just finish them off. Because if you use Earth Shock, thing is, you spam lava burst and maybe 2 or 3 lava bursts and then use Earth Shock and then go back to lava burst. What happens more often than not, a lot of people expect it. Like, the good part about Ascendance and like as a enhanced or Ellie is that a lot of people don't expect that ridiculous damage to come out of nowhere. And even if they do, they might not still see it coming as well as it did. So a good way to do that is because like if you spam 2 or 3 lava bursts in the fulmination, their health's already going to be at like 30-40%. So they're going to pop all their defensive cooldowns, run the fuck away. So what you want to do is keep using those lava bursts, and then they're like, oh, I'm not taking that much damage. And they go down to about 25-30%, you fulmination them, and they're like, oh, what the hell did happen? I just got global. No, you didn't get global, you know that was coming. And so so personally I like using Earth Shock at the end of my whole rotation. For the mini burst, yeah, you use it instantly after your lava burst. For Ascendance, wait till at the end. So that's pretty much it for burst. Alright, let's talk macros. Now for macros, as Ellie, I don't have that many. Now, obviously, if you don't have the symbiosis already from on your action bar or something, you want / symbiosis. Is Shaman or DPS shamans do sometimes play with druids, or I mean, I personally enjoy playing with druids a lot. And then so you would also need /cast, add focus, symbiosis. But instead of symbiosis, I just put solar beam because I know I get solar beam anyways. So you need that focus solar beam also, which is right here. So it's on question mark right now because there's no druid right now. And then this is my burst macro, which I showed you earlier in the burst rotation. It's basically /cast Ascendance / use my trinket or DPS trinket, my Stormlash totem, and my Ellie mastery. I used to have my fire elemental in this, but I usually have my fire Ellie out anyway, so I put in my Stormlash because it's just sometimes when you're in that heat of moment, like you tend to forget about that extra and that totem and like when I used to play, from when I started playing, that totem was never there, so I'm not a big I sometimes forget to use it. So this is a good way, because having Stormlash down when you're actually bursting, it's actually a good amount of damage, so make sure you put that down. And then I have 2 cleanses for I have my cleanse for my healer and I have cleanse for my partner. I just named them that. So make sure you're able to cleanse your partner's hexes on demand. When teams don't have hexes, you can probably dispel things like Curse of Elements or Curse of Weakness. It helps out a lot. And then obviously you have /cast, add focus hex. You want to focus hex. So that's a really good macro. And for wind shear, now you have /stop casting wind shear. Now this is really important. You want to have stop casting on your wind shears, because you can be casting and you instantly want to wind shear something. You don't want to have to actually use a macro to /stop cast and then wind shear, because by that time that frost bomb or that poly or that cyclone is probably gone off. So you want that, and then you want /cast, add focus, wind shear.
Now, that same goes for grounding totem. You want to stop casting grounding totem. It's going to be extremely important. It's also really good for, let's say, I'm casting an Ellie Blast. More often than not, a lot of people do go to interrupt Ellie Blast, like you just the way you interrupt a frost bomb. So you go for that, and then you put a grounding totem down against casters. A lot of times you will get their counter spells or spell locks or something. It's a really good way to juke. And so if you can't afford to be blanketed at the moment, it's really nice. And then I have my slash cast healing surges at both of my partners also. So you can put party 1 and party 2 or party 3 or something like that. I just like to put my names, probably because I'm too lazy. And I have my use Gift of Naru slash Hellstone macro, which I just like. So if I ever need to use Gift of Naru, then I'm pretty sure I'm kind of needing my Hellstone too. So I just kind of macro them together. It's just easier for me. And that's pretty much it for Ellie macros. But now one thing I do want to add is just arena macros in general. Is I use slash target arena 1, 2, and 3. Now, these are really important macros. Like, if you don't use them, I would highly recommend you trying these out. And because there's moments where if you're looking on, let's say you're targeting someone and you have someone on your focus, and the third person is casting something like let's say you're facing a wrestler, druid, warlock, and mage. You have 2 people that you can win shear because you're win shear and focus win shear, but you don't have the third person. They're casting something that you have to get. If you have arena 1, 2, 3, you can just swap targets with arena 1, 2, 3 and just win shear. Or in general, just swapping it's a lot easier than tap targeting or just clicking on your arena frames. So I personally think these are a must, and in order to succeed further in arenas, I think it help you out a lot. And on top of that, I also use focus arena 1, 2, and 3 just to set them as focus, because I constantly switch focuses. But I mean, these aren't as important because you can use target 1, 2, and 3, and then just have a macro that's slash focus. So then just press that. But I just prefer this because I just use my 1, 2, 3, and then shift 1, 2, 3 for focus and targeting. So those are really important macros in my opinion. Other than that, I mean, obviously the other macros slash focus. So pretty much it for macros, guys. Okay, one totem I did forget is the tremor totem. You also want to have slash stop casting on your tremor totem. Also really important. Alright, here are my talents that I'm using. As elemental, there are some shamans that are using Storm Bulwark. I still don't think, like, especially with my gear right now, because I didn't play much last season, so I have full honor gear, but the honor gear can't compete with the T2 fully upgraded from last season, obviously. So I still don't think Storm Bulwark is that amazing, regardless. And Astral Shift, I mean, it's nice for when you're going against casters that kill you in their silence or something, maybe, but it's a 2-minute cooldown for 6 seconds. So I personally prefer Nature's Guardian, which I procs every 30 seconds. And literally, it saved my life so many times in openers. I don't know, I think Nature's Guardian is just amazing. And obviously as Ellie Shaman, my personal favorite is Earth Grab. It's like probably the best for kiting. Frozen Power, I think it's probably the worst as an Ellie Shaman, because I don't think I've ever used Earth Shock, like very rarely. If my priest like wants me to get slow him or something, or if whoever I'm playing with, if he's going for that kill and he can't slow him, then I might. But usually I'll probably never use a Frost Shot. The Windwalk Totem, I really don't usually need it, because if I'm facing a mage or something, or like as an Ash Shaman, yeah, you can, but as Ellie, I mean, Earth Grab is just up there. Now for the third tier, Totemic Projections is my personal favorite, and for most cases, it's going to be amazing, because obviously for landing capacitors and sending your roots somewhere, but also it's amazing when you tremor and your healer's not out of position, you can send the tremor to your healers or anyone else in your party, which is amazing. I've actually sent grounding totems to different places too, just because I know there's a shatter coming in, and my healer, if I grounded from where I was, that he probably wasn't going to get the shatter, so I send the grounding totem to where he is, and I absorb the shatter. So there are a lot of different cases, or you can set healing tides, or Hydra elemental totem, or Hydra healing tide. So there's a lot of, it's really good usefulnesses. Yeah, can't talk right now, it's like super late. Alright, so time of restoration, again, this is a really nice talent for when you're facing, let's say, Shadow Priests. So that way you can almost pretty much, like, if you kite around for 5 or 10 seconds after, like, when a priest spears, by the time his next spear's up, there's like, you have 10 seconds, you have to kite a little bit, and you'll have your tremor back. So it's actually really nice. So for priests, for warlocks, yeah, some people think it's nice, but I personally like design projects because if, let's say I have a fire alley up or something, or I have like grounding up, if I take, the more often than not, I want to keep those things there, and so by using that tremor and just releasing that tremor, those cooldowns go, those totems and stuff go away too. So it's not my personal favorite, and I try not to use it if I don't have to. But against some Shadow Priest teams, I do. Against Warlock teams, I generally don't. And then Call Up Elements, I don't use at all. I don't think it's that beneficial as an Elemental Shaman. And here comes level 60 talents. Ancestral Swiftness. Now, this is amazing for when you're facing, let's say, druids, or just in general any class where you know you're gonna, any comps where you know you're gonna get trained and you're gonna have a hard time getting a hex off. Even if you manage to juke them, the other healers is gonna LOS because they know like their team members are gonna communicate at the higher level that they can't get the next hex and the healer needs to LOS. So Ancestral Swiftness is amazing. But there are times where I know I'm not gonna have a hard time getting my hex off, or that the other team has like a druid and a mage or something, where I know they can dispel it instantly. So there's no point in me even wasting Ancestral Swiftness for my hex. But I do use Ancestral, like every now and then I might use it for that heal, but our heals aren't that big and it doesn't help our heals in any ways like a druid's NS does, or it increases by 50%. So if there's situations where I know my hex, like getting a hex off isn't going to be a problem, then I'm going to go with LE Mastery, which is tons and tons of damage in your burst. It's like having a heroism. I love it. Echo the Elements is a nice talent, but basically what it does is you already have an Echo the Elements that's 75% strong. So with this, it just becomes 100%. That's the only difference. So it can, I mean, obviously if you're just free casting constantly, yeah, it will help. I mean, your damage will be higher, but I just think LE Mastery is just, it's the way to go. So between Ancestral Swiftness and LE Mastery is where you're going to be going. Now, as Elemental, I think Healing Tide is just, there's no competition with Healing Tide for PvP. Ancestral Guidance, as an LE Shaman, you cannot expect to use this when you're, like, the only time you're going to use Healing Tide is when you're actually dying. And if you're dying as an LE Shaman, you, like, if you play an LE Shaman, you know you're not going to be able to get as many casts off as you like. So Ancestral Guidance is out of there. It might save your partners if they're going on your partners and you have burst out, but in the connectivity, that's not going to happen as an LE Shaman. I will talk about that later in my enhanced guide. So Healing Tide is the way to go. And then there are talks about, since Unleashed Fury now got buffed for Lava Burst, Unleashed Fury can be really nice. So if you're going for that overall damage, I think Unleashed Fury can be really good. But I think if you're going for that straight up just burst, I think Elemental Blast is still going to be nice. So if you think like, so it's just a personal preference how you want to play. But I still think LE Blast is still much, like for PvP at least, in my opinion, it's over Unleashed Fury. And I haven't played around too much with Primal Elements, or Elementalist. I'm not a big fan of it. I tried a couple of times. I don't really like it much, and when people see that LE, it's a really easy kill. Even if they don't kill the totem, they'll kill the LE. And it's not that hard to kill it. The totem's actually harder to kill now, which is a good thing, because totems have resilience now, so if you notice, your mana tides, your healing tides, they're not getting killed as fast. Because people can't just, you throw one Fell Flame at it and crit it and just, it dies. So people actually have to like, throw a couple of globals into them, so which is a good thing. But regardless, I think LE Blast is amazing. So for Elemental, I go with NS, Earth Grab, Totemic Projections, between LE Mastery and NS, Healing Tide, and LE Blast. I almost exclusively use Elite Blast. Don't use the other two, but you can try the other ones. They are good in other situations. Now to go for Glyphs. I think this is a must. This is the most important glyph. I think. I think people will have to have this. Run while casting for Glyph Unleash Lightning, which lets you cast Lightning Bolt while you're on the run. Yeah, it reduces that cast time by 5%, but that's more than enough to back that talent up. So there's been many cases where, I mean, because Lightning Bolt is amazing while you're just kiting around. So otherwise you're going to be using other spells anyways. And Thunderstorm Glyph, this is amazing because my Thunderstorm is now a 17.5 second cooldown. So I almost always have this. This basically means I've actually, if you watch some of my arena videos, I do go sometimes by just spamming offfields or something. And with this, even if I go I can just Thunderstorm every 75 seconds. I'm never gonna go I can keep going and going and going. So it's good for that, and on top of that, it's good for just in general, like facing melee or knocking someone off. And recently, in 5.2, Ellie Shaman's got Shamanistic Rage, which, thank you, Blizz. And so I use the Shamanistic Rage glyph, but now, one time where you don't want to use this glyph, or there's two times where you don't want to, but the most important time is if there's a UA lock. You do not want to use this against an affliction lock, especially like against an MLS team. Like you're deep frozen, you try to get out of deep freeze, but you have a UA on you. You're gonna dispel the UA. You're gonna take a 100k crit regardless, so it's gonna global you randomly. So you don't want this glyph against the UA lock. And the other time you don't want this glyph, that's when you're facing, like let's say you're facing a warrior ret monk or whatever. It doesn't matter. Just any team where the other team has no magical effects on you, then there's no point in using this glyph. So instead of that, I'm gonna go with the Hex glyph, which reduces cooldown by 35 seconds. But the other team has someone that can actually dispel Hex, then it depends. I might go with Healing Stream. So if it's like a double caster team, which Healing Stream is actually really nice. It's really good to prevent that extra damage. 10% adds up to be a lot against double casters. And obviously Capacitor Totem to get those stuns off. Every now and then I will use Ghost Wolf if like it's mandatory where I'm just kiting constantly, but normally more often than not I'm going with Cap Totem or Healing Stream or Hex. Mainly Shamanistic Rage and Hex. So, and then for my minor glyphs, this is, I don't know why I have this, but there was no other glyphs. I'm pretty sure I could use like Astral Recall, but this is my third alt, Shaman, so I didn't even buy it, so it doesn't matter anyways. And then I use Lake Strider, which this is, I think this is a must glyph for any Shaman. When you Ghost Wolf, you get a water walking buff. Now, this is awesome for actually walking on water when you're not in arenas, but what happens is, in an arena, because Ghost Wolf is now, like, it's been dispellable, so they have to dispel one extra thing to actually get your Ghost Wolf. So there's a chance that, so it's just nice. And then Totemic Encirclement, where if you summon one totem, you summon 4 at the same time, with like 5 health each. I just think it's nice for, like, I know like almost everyone in arenas, they get annoyed by how many totems they see. So especially if both teams have totems, it's everywhere. And so it's just nice having the extra totem, like so people have a harder time targeting your totems. So that's pretty much it for talents and glyphs.
Alright, time for my add-ons. Alright, now I've actually toned down the add-ons I used to use by a lot. I used to use ridiculous amounts of add-ons, and I've been trying to reduce them. Mainly they were just add-ons, they were pointless add-ons for like, I just use them because I like to see almost everything there was. But right now, add-ons I use, Arena Spy, that's just to see who you're facing. Is not a big deal anymore, because since Blizz actually tells you who you're facing now, or what comp at least you're facing, so it's not needed. I just kind of keep it there, it's just on for no reason. And then Bartender, this is a must for me, because for the extra action bars and stuff, because I use a lot of keybinds, and I have a lot of actions or spells. So I want that extra action bar, and I want like and it's much easier for me to keybind. I hate going to actual like the Bliss keybinds and then keybinding. So this is amazing for me. Bartender, I love it. Battleground targets, this is like a must for RBGs. And now I'm not a big fan of RBGs, which last season it killed me. So this season I'm actually trying to do some. So for battleground targets, it's a must for RBGs. And then I'm using Curse Profiler. I have no clue what that does. It's just on. Diminishing returns. I love this add-on. This is like one of my favorite add-ons. I think this is a must if your Gladius doesn't already do this for you, which basically shows you what it says, diminishing returns. So let's say you hex some, let's say I'm running with the hunter, for example, and he traps someone. Now my hex and my trap DR. So if he hexes someone, or if he traps someone, and then about 10 seconds later I want to hex them, but the DR, it will tell you what's the DR, and it only has a 4-second DR left on it. I might as well wait 4 seconds and then have an 8-second hex rather than having a 4-second hex because it's already DR'd. So seeing DRs is amazing. Gladiator Losa, I honestly don't even hear this anymore, but when I'm actually streaming or in my videos, this some people can actually hear well. So, but normally I used to use this a lot because just back when, but now it's just like I'm just really aware of what everything's going on. So, but this does help you out a lot with your awareness. It just gives you a little break. And Gladius, obviously, I love this add-on. Just shows trinket and stuff. I don't have to get any other add-ons to show trinkets and stuff like that. So, and also it's a really big frame. I don't like the Blizz original arena frames because they're so tiny. I don't know how to make them bigger, so that's the only reason I use Gladius. And then Grid, again, this is for RBGs, so not a big deal. I just like, instead of the big Blizz frames, because I use them for arenas, so I don't want to keep changing them when I play arenas. So I just use Grid to show all the raid members and stuff. And then Healbot. A lot of people complain, and I think there have been some people that have been commented or try to troll me about it, that I keep Healbot on. Now, back when I first started, which was really late season 9 to early season 10, I did, because I came from like I've been playing since Wrath, but I was a big PvE hero. So I've been healing with Healbot for a long time. So in season 10, early season 10, I actually used Healbot to heal as a Resto Shaman. I played MLS. I got up to like 2200, about around a little bit over 2200 as a Resto Shaman using Healbot. So it can actually be done. But regardless, I don't recommend people using Healbot. That's back when I wasn't as, like, I didn't know how to like play the way I play right now. But I'm just so used to like actually noticing hexes on my Healbot. So the only reason I have Healbot there is so I can see the hex extremely fast. So if you notice in any of my videos, I dispel hexes like almost instantly. That's when unless, I mean, obviously the other team they like NS hex, then sometimes I don't notice it as much, and my healer tells me and I dispel it within a second or two. Otherwise, I just save a global as soon as it goes off, just dispel them. So that's basically what I use Healbot for on my enhance and my Ellie, is just simply for watching who's hexed. Now, I used to use it for healing, legit. And I use Juked, which is just to see who has what interrupts, which I really like. And then I use Lose Control just to see what kind of CCs I'm in, what kind of CCs my focus targets in, what's the duration of the CCs that they're currently in, what CCs they're in, like a bigger form or a bigger like square block. So it's just easier for me to notice. So I love Lose Control. And then I use Omni CC. What that does is just, let's say I use my Healing Tide, it just gives me a timer on it. Or if I use my healing stream, 30 seconds, or 1 minute, it'll just give me a timer on that. It makes life a lot easier for me. So I use Omni CC. And then Outfitter, I've been using the add-on since before Blizz came out with the Equipment Manager. So I've just kind of stuck with Outfitter because I'm too lazy to actually set up Equipment Manager.
And I used to use that because I used to play all three specs of a shaman even back then. Like I used to play on, and back then I only had one shaman. Now I have three different shamans for each spec. And then postal, not a big deal, not for arenas. Recount, I just like watching all the different numbers, just seeing who did what, and it's just not, it's just a fun add-on for me. Save queue, obviously a really good add-on for arenas. You don't want to miss queues and stuff. Shaman friend, this is an add-on where people always how do you like, because I'm all in party chat or anything, I'm randomly calling out like what I grounded, what I sheared, what I purged, and people are always telling me like how does how does show up, how do you tell, like that's a shaman for an add-on. It'll tell you your Wind Fury crits, it'll tell you your overload procs, it'll tell you what you purge, what you ground. So it's just to like see for yourself what you actually purged. So let's say you're focus purging like a priest that just came out, you're trying to get the Fear Ward. You don't have to constantly look at their bars. You can just keep focus purging until you see Fear Ward purged. So it's kind of nice. And it's also fun to just make sure what sometimes I'll ground defreezes and stuff like that, and I'll know that I grounded it. So that's really nice. And then spell alerter, I honestly don't even know what this does. I just have it, so it's there. I don't use it. And then tell me when. I don't use it for my shaman, but I do use it for some other classes like my DK or something. It would just to tell me like for example, the blood tap, or I forgot what it's called, I don't even know, but just to show like certain procs or something, like one of my trinkets proc or something is nice for that. I don't use it on my shaman. And then I don't like tidy plates. I use WoW Instant Messenger, not for arenas. I use X Pro, that's my UI, my frame units. I just like the bigger frames, whatever, and the percentages and the actual health bars and stuff, and so it's just nice for me. And that's pretty much it for add-ons. Please feel free to ask any other questions, leave comments. If you have anything, message me all you want. You can click on this blue alien lady to go to my how-to guide, to see all my other guides for enhanced LE and for pure seasons in general. If you want to see more LE enhancement content as well as other things, click the big blue alien to subscribe now.